Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and the Lines, coming to you from the West Coast. Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer on the East Coast, as always. And we're looking at a pretty small Tuesday night slate here. Nate, going to be checking out the Lakers and Knicks in this historic matchup from two teams that are currently not very good, to be honest. But make sure you do check out Nate's best bets and player props article up on playpicks.com tonight. As always, though, if you do still need a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to fdpicks.com or dkpicks.com and find those listings in your area, such as what we've got for tonight. Nate, let's get into it.
Yeah, woke up to the Knicks -4. It then crept up to -6 and is back down to -4 in most places as people jumped on what they felt could capitalize with the Lakers underdogs on the road. The total also fluctuating a little bit. It was up to 216. Now we're down to 214.5. So that's something to monitor there. We'll talk about that in a minute. The other three games tonight, we got Heat -10 at Pistons. We got Nuggets, maybe without Nikola Jokic again, +6 at the Blazers. And the Mavs, maybe without Luka Doncic again, are +5.5 at the Clippers. But I'm watching the total more than anything in this, Josh. I mean, I guess if the Knicks are only slight favorites, I would take them. I was looking at a money line and under with the Knicks winning there. They've gone under in 7 straight. Both of these teams really rough on offense lately. The Lakers are going to be without LeBron James as he was suspended for getting into a bit of a fight with Isaiah Stewart the other night in a game that the Lakers had to come back from 15 points in Detroit. This team is really, really struggling right now, especially on the road after the schedule makers gave them a very soft landing to start. Since they've hit the road, it has not been pretty. And in their last 8 overall, they actually have the 4th worst net rating of any team in the NBA. So much for championship favorites. The Knicks have not been gangbusters in that stretch by any means either. We're talking 26th in offensive rating over their last 8, and in their last 5 at home, 23rd in pace, 24th in offense. So I think that's why you definitely lean towards an under here, assuming both teams kind of bruise it up and maybe the Lakers slow it down a little bit. I know they both played on Sunday, but the fact that the Lakers had to put so much energy into that comeback makes me think that they're going to be a little more tired, especially since they're on the 3rd or 4th game of a road trip here all the way across the country.
Yeah, no, that adds up. And I think I'm mostly looking at the Knicks being able to take care of business here, mostly because without LeBron, AD is also, currently listed as questionable. I still think he's likely to play either way. The way that this one is panning out is a lack of offense. Agreed there. I think you're also talking about, right now, Derrick Rose, Mitchell Robinson are also questionable for the Knicks, things to watch out for. So you're really talking about a lack of depth on both teams, which leads to the benches, which have already been really bad, to be honest, for both these teams. It leads to those. The Lakers bench has been really bad. The Knicks bench has been very, very good. It's their starters who are struggling, but you take some of those bench players off of the Knicks, bench rotation, having to put them into the lineup, give quickly some more starter minutes, and the like. Now you're talking about a much weaker bench for both teams. And I think you'll see a lack of offense in those scenarios, having to play Russ for the Lakers as well, with those starters not able to play him as often in those secondary units. One guy to watch out for the Lakers is Taylor Horton-Tucker, who continues to really, have a nice start to the season for himself after he came back from injury, which will be nice for them. But, it's going to be a lack of points, in my opinion, as well for both teams. The Knicks at home right now, when they are favorites, the under has hit in 6 of those 11 games that they've been home favorites, as I mentioned. And really, it's what they've done recently, the starters for the Knicks, what they haven't done around Julius Randle. It was another clear-cut case of them having the inability to have a secondary scorer when Julius Randle puts up 34 points against the Bulls and they still lose by a decent margin there. It really shows what they're not able to do on offense. And I do think we're starting to see a slight uptick in the Knicks style, or at least let's call it a downtick in terms of their pace, playing more at Tibbs's level as of late. But they started out as this offensive team that was really benefiting from having Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier in the backcourt. But those two guys are not necessarily, if they're your second or third best player on your team, you're not a quality team. And if you're going to sell it on offense the way that they have, and not bring it on defense, which was their identity last year, you're going to be in even less games than you have been. So mostly what I'm eyeing in this game is the Knicks' ability to handle the Lakers, who are in even more disarray, in my opinion, especially without LeBron tonight. And then eyeing that under, potentially even teasing that, like I said. And then lastly, taking Julius Randle potentially to maybe see what he can do if Mitchell Robinson doesn't play, starting to maybe look at his rebounds and such. I know we have a player props video up where we might talk about that a bit. That's the only guy, aside from Russ, who you keep eyeing every time that LeBron's out, and maybe AD tonight. Those are the two guys that I would look for props and that unders. That's where I'm looking tonight.
Yeah, just looking at the schedule for the Lakers, I mean, they have to go to Indiana tomorrow night as well. So that's a really rough situation to close out that road trip. Whereas the Knicks are home again and not until playing again until Friday. Yeah. So I feel like New York can go a lot more out for this win, and that Davis might just sit because it's the front end of a back-to-back, that they might just take their lumps at this point. They haven't strung together any success recently. I mean, with LeBron in and out of the lineup, they haven't had that leadership, and they're 6-20 against the spread their last 26 after a win. So, I mean, I don't think there's a problem with taking the Knicks at a small spread or looking at teasing it down here. Maybe you tease it down to about a money line and tease this total up to 218 or so. The Lakers, their defense has been so bad recently that does concern me a little bit, but I don't see this Knicks team at the pace they play at with the alternate options besides Randall you mentioned. I don't see them necessarily hanging 110 or blowing them out the way the Celtics did in Boston on Friday.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. You mentioned how bad the Lakers are after a win right now. It's incredible that they're 6-20 against the spread in their last 26 after winning one. That's the exact opposite of what you expect from a LeBron James team. But this is not a LeBron James team right now, as we mentioned a couple of times. So, I mean, make sure you stay on thelines.com as well to see those injury updates. Potentially, LeBron, obviously LeBron not playing. It does seem likely that AD wouldn't play when you consider they have another game in Indiana tomorrow night, as you mentioned. I think that's a huge factor here to consider that look ahead, and considering that there won't be as many points played, especially if AD is limited in minutes tonight. So either way, not the matchup that we might have been expecting tonight before the season started. Probably expected a little bit better from both these teams, especially as of late, as they're struggling. Somebody's got to win tonight, Nate. And I think we both are at least feeling better about picking the Knicks if you had to take a winner, and definitely consider that under tonight, as it's going to be a sloppy game in our opinion. So that is all the time that we have today. Make sure to like and subscribe. We've got another video up with another game line on there for you, as well as our player props video where we will offer a gift card opportunity. And until we see you next, happy betting.